Hi. Can you hear us? José-Carlos and Saana.
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Now we are live. Today our discussion topic is about responsible tourism in Lapland and in Finland, like how do we see responsible tourism practices in the tourism sector. So we have experts and expert guests today in the studio, and we will talk about different aspects of responsible tourism. This discussion is a part of Visit Lapland's initiative to talk about different issues of tourism sector in Lapland, and then we are having this regular discussion in our social media channels, and then you can also find it in our website as well in ourlapland.fi/live. So today we will go to meet our guests. First, we have guests from southern part of Finland, Saana Jaakkola, who is a travel journalist, and then she can tell about herself something about.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Saana Jaakkola. I live here in the southwest coast of Finland, and I'm a travel journalist and a traveler, obviously, as well. And during the recent years, I've been focusing on responsible tourism, and the more I learn about the topic and the more I want to learn about the topic is the more I realize that it's not always easy to be a responsible traveler, and that is why I'm trying to tackle with telling people stories about responsible tourism to raise the awareness.
We will hear more about from Saana, and then now we have another guest, José-Carlos García-Rosell, who is a senior lecturer in the University of Lapland, Multidimensional Tourism Institute, and then he is also an Adjunct professor and a director of a master's degree in tourism, and he can tell something more about.
Hello. My name is José-Carlos García-Rosell. And I work at the University of Lapland. I've been working there for, I think, the last 12, 13 years around the topic of responsible tourism business is the area where I'm specialized, and I have been doing research in the area and also working in different development projects also around the topic of responsible tourism here in Lapland. And also a couple of years ago also was involved also with some companies and other researchers from the university in the creation of the responsible tourism network in Lapland. And so it's a kind of an organic organization where we collaborate with companies, also research institutions, companies, and other actors here in Lapland that are trying to develop tourism in a responsible way. So doing kind of working with research, education, and development at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool. Like we can hear many more different things. Like you are also part of this responsible tourism network of Lapland, and then like we can hear more about those initiatives as well. So how, like, if we start from responsible tourism, like there people are asking, like, why responsible tourism? Why not just tourism? So what do you think, Saana? What is the how do we describe that? Like, why responsible tourism? What do you think?
Well, I think, and at least I hope that in the future, just the tourism will be all responsible tourism. Tourism sector has been growing a lot over the past decades, and the change has been coming, and now obviously as we all know, the change came more quickly than nobody expected, thanks to the coronavirus. So now we are basically at the state where travel needs to change. Where it's going to change, it's about how us travelers are going to change, because whatever us travelers want from tourism and tourism operators in the future, that's what the companies will provide. And I think the tourism has been growing in kind of a direction that it's not sustainable, and it can't grow like that. We have to learn to respect the environment, respect the local people, and to bring more benefits to the local economy. Or
there are like many different issues, I think, like related with responsible, why it's necessary, why it's connected. I think responsible tourism, it means like if you are in the tourism sector, that means that like responsible tourism is now it's much more important, like if you are like involved in the sector and then doing some kind of activities, so that you need to act in a responsible way, you need to travel in responsibly, and then you have to, like what you were saying, that like what kind of things you can do. So things can be done in a like more better way, where environment, people, culture, all this can be noticed. I think that's kind of important here. Like José-Carlos can tell us like something about this responsible tourism initiatives, like what kind of initiatives actually at the moment we need, and how that responsible tourism aspect can be ensured. What do you think?
Well, as we can say, so that, yes, as was said, Saana said, tourism has been growing very fast around the world, and there have been talks about over-tourism in different parts of the planet, different regions, areas, cities. And this is something that we have to think carefully how we develop tourism, how we plan it, and there is a need actually for this, for responsibility, and I think that is the way most companies and actors here in Lapland would like to develop tourism in a responsible way that we take care of the environment, of the local culture. Also, we are aware, and we also plan in a way that we don't have negative impacts on the different aspects of, if we think, environment, culture, society, and so on. And this is the reason for this initiative. So, like to take active action. And the idea is that if we talk about responsibility, in practice, a lot about collaboration and dialogues between different actors. It's not only about what companies or consumers do or politicians, but it's about kind of having a dialogue, changing ideas in a way that can help us to plan and develop tourism in a more responsible way. And that is the basic thing behind this initiative. But also, on the other hand, if we take a look at Lapland's destination, there are also a lot of companies that are doing a great job in we think about responsibility issues. But also, there is the challenge that sometimes we don't know how to tell about that, or we don't realize that actually what we're doing is a responsible practice and something that is good for the environment, for society. And also, this also how to bring it up and to tell about these issues, about how we do things and why we do these certain things. So this is also part of this initiative to tell more about that and to make our customers or consumers aware of that, what we are doing here in Lapland.
Yeah, like what kind of things, like if you're saying that like many different things, like what people are need to be, or what need to be done in, for example, in the environmental perspective and also like local business perspective. But like, is there some kind of initiative that like this which is for local companies or like the visitors or the tourists for their purpose? Is there some kind of initiative like this?
Well, we did in the network. 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, we collected some kind of these kind of responsible actions, and these are collected out. Unfortunately, they're in Finnish, and they are in a website of the Responsible Tourism, Lapland Responsible Tourism Network. You can find the 100 responsible actions. And it's a list of things that companies have been already been doing here in Lapland. They are related to energy or to social issues. There are kind of different things that have been done, and it provides a good overview of things that is, because when we talk about responsibility, it's also it's something that we need to see that it's not always about following the law or the legal system. Of course, this is something that company has to do because it's in the law, and you have a certain legal framework that you are kind of obligated to follow. But the responsibility issues also are the things that are beyond the law, actually things that you want to do because you think that they are good things, right things. Even if the law is not asking you to do these things, you will take care of that.
Yeah.
And these are most of the actions are about that, about things that are not required by law, but companies are doing it because it's a good practice, because it may reduce damage on the environment, it will may reduce energy consumption, it will lead to the better treatment of animals in the tourism industry, or maybe also a better impact on the employees and their working conditions and so on.
Yeah, I think like it's a good point. Like here, like you like in the tourism sector, or like if you're doing things in the business, so it's not that all the time you have to just follow just the law. Like, but rather than law, you can actually do many more things. What in the law it doesn't says, but still like you can in those actions you can influence like in many ways environment, local things, and businesses, and all the sectors, I guess, which doesn't require any kind of like legal bindings or something, where people can actually do on themselves, like initiate some kind of responsibility on their own. So it's like benefiting the nature, benefiting the environment, benefiting the this business environment as well. What do you, Saana, think?
Well, yeah, I think this is so that companies take actions to become more responsible, and by doing that, they also show example to other companies. There are plenty of travel companies in Finland, probably in Lapland too, that don't really know what responsible tourism is, and very often it's still the thought that, especially when I talk with just average travelers, and they often ask me, what is it then? What is responsible tourism? So the concept isn't exactly clear, or then it's only about flight emission and climate change, even if responsible tourism contains so much more, many more aspects than just climate change and flight emissions, even if they are very important things and topics, of course. But yeah, when companies are doing things in a more responsible manner, but are not forced by law, but taking initiatives and showing example to other companies, but they also raise the awareness of the travelers. So the more responsible options the travelers are offered, the more they learn, and the more they then learn to request for more responsible options. So it's sort of like a positive cycle, while the demand feeds the offering and vice versa.
Yeah, of course, like there are many things, because like it's not just helping the companies, and it's just if companies are taking different actions, then it's like helping in many different ways, like these local businesses, tourism, people's well-being, local culture, and many other things are connected there. So like these initiatives and actions are important, and I think like responsible tourism, what it does is that like it creates more positive impacts on the society and in this the sector, like when we are taking about tourism sector. And so in tourism, it's creating many different kind of positive impacts and positive output people can get from there. And then like it decrease, or let's say like kind of minimizing those negative impacts. So in that sense, like it's not like asking you to do something by law, not necessary all the time, but there are many more things to do. And then like it also needs some kind of clear guidelines or some kind of clear to tell people like how they can be a part of responsible tourism. What Saana said, that like some people are asking that what it is actually, and then what do we need to do. So like that's kind of, I think, important here.
Yeah, and what was mentioned about the awareness of customers and tourists, so it's growing, and also people are more kind of, I would say, interested, concerned, or they want to know, or they react in a way to things that maybe they may think that are not ethical or right. So they will, what we say that nowadays, a lot of people are consuming with according to their values they have, and they play a very important role in everyday consumption, but also when we are traveling. And as some tour operators may say it, or big companies, so when they actually, because now responsible tourism has become very important for global tourism companies. They want to make sure that the holidays they're selling, they are responsible, they are sustainable in a way, because they know the customer, they may react negatively if something happens or if something is not seen as responsible. And there is something that I have heard many times, that it's not that maybe we are not there, that some customers, but not the majority, will be going to buy a holiday and say, I want to an ethical holiday, and I want this holiday that, okay, everything is okay and responsible. Maybe they are not thinking about that at that moment when they are buying the holiday. It is about relaxation and going somewhere to have free time. But if something they see in the holiday that, for example, about working conditions or the treatment of animals, or maybe that something is damaging the environment, they will react and give negative feedback to the tour operator about, okay, this was not a very nice. I think that this could be done in a different way. And there is a reason why also, if we think about market pressure, so responsibility has become very important nowadays in tourism.
Yeah, like what is that market pressure? Like we are saying that like there are demands like for different kind of responsible tourism initiatives or options. What people are looking nowadays globally, not only in Finland or Lapland. But what is there that pressure? Like, is it coming from the companies, or it's just people just want to have like this kind of solutions, or they want to see that like if some companies are doing this kind of thing, so they appreciate those. Is it that pressure you mean?
Well, I can say that the pressure is kind of we see that the responsibility is for some companies is a very important thing, and for some destinations. And we can see sort of for Lapland, so if we think about the newest strategy and also previous strategy, sustainability and responsibility has played a big role. But also around the world, even if destination were not thinking about sustainability before, nowadays they are, because there is actually interest in the market, in the tourists, in the customers, that they are interested in these issues. They want to know, or maybe they don't want to see negative things happening in relation to the environment or social issues when they are in a holiday. And this is something that because of this kind of concerns, or the role of values in current consumption practices, then of course the bigger companies, global tour operators, or tourism companies that are selling holidays around the world, they know that, okay, they have to take care of this, and they will ask some companies in the destination to do things in a more responsible way if they are not doing that. And so in the case for Lapland, it's a good thing, because in that way, if they are able to show that actually we are working, we're trying to develop our tourism in a responsible way, and we take care of this issue. And this issue is also something that nowadays tour operators want to hear and want to see in practice.
Yeah, like here one thing came in my mind, that like how that, like you were saying that companies are going to benefit in this, and then there are many kind of questions, or people are asking these kind of services. So you think like local companies are getting benefited if they have like different kind of these solutions, or let's say like who are acting much more in a responsive way, or like acting responsibly and having their services or products in considering those aspects? Is it that like they are getting more, for example, benefited by financially?
Well, I think that in the future it becomes more and more important, and that because the more travelers they raise awareness about responsible tourism, they are seeking for companies who sort of that fits their values. And firstly, if we think about travelers who are not necessarily they are doing their own trips and they are looking for tour operators online before the trip, whether they are Finnish travelers or international travelers. And if they don't see any mention of responsible tourism or sustainability on the company's website, they most likely leave that company and buy the service from the competitor who has taken into consideration these values. I mean, that should be something for the companies to think about as well. In an ideal case, the traveler would give feedback to the company why you are not mentioning anything about responsible tourism on your website and push the companies to do that. But unfortunately, in most cases, I believe they just quietly choose another option.
Yeah, there are like many different things like connected there. So people actually want to see that in what you are doing, and then they want to see like if they're really doing it or just talking about it. So it's nowadays it means a lot for the travelers who are visiting some place and or thinking about buying some kind of services. So they like want to see if there are different kind of the sustainable solutions are there, or whether they are like people are doing that. But how it is in Lapland, like what kind of picture you see, José-Carlos?
Yeah, maybe before I go into that, so I have to continue with some comment about this. I totally agree that there are customers that are asking about things, and they want to know, they want to find information about these things. We did actually a couple of years ago, in a study we did, we kind of identified 3 different profiles. So one wants the tourists that actually they don't think about this issue when they are going to a holiday, but when they go to the holiday and maybe they realize something, okay, they are not recycling the waste in this hotel. Okay, they will become concerned about that, and they may ask some question to the tour operator, to the company. But when they ask there, but then there are other customers that are kind of more kind of conscious travelers, and they will actually be looking for this information. They will kind of take a look at the web page and see, okay, how they do this and how they do this, and based on this information, they will make a decision. I go into this company or to this particular destination, or buy this particular package. And of course, there were third group of travelers that are more conscious travelers, that are more critical in the things they will look for, and also they will be things that maybe they are not going to take into consideration because for them it will be unethical to do so. So there are kind of different kind of profiles out there, but this is true that there are more and more people that are looking for information, and that is a thing that nowadays companies should be trying to provide more information about what they do, how they do things, and why they do certain things in a particular way. And in Lapland, the situation is, I think, so like at least in the work we have been doing in the different projects, but also in the network, and there are a lot of, I would say, the majority kind of working in these kind of sustainability, responsibility things.
Yeah.
They have good practices, good things. Of course, always there is room for improvement everywhere, but they are actually kind of, I would say, pioneers we think about responsible tourism. And one of the things actually we realized that there are many companies that are doing a lot of good things, but they are not actually telling about that. And this is a problem if, for example, we think about customers who are looking for this information and they are not able to find it anywhere. So, and this is the thing. So, how to maybe improve the communication strategy of the company, or trying to bring information that actually customers are looking for. That because it is something I think is mostly in Finland, not only in Lapland, but the thing that we think that if we have a good service, or if we have a good, very responsible company, so we don't need to talk about that because people know that. When they and it is something that actually companies need to do. They don't take it for granted. Tell about what you're doing and how you're doing things. And actually, if I may go back to some time when I started my PhD at university, and I was doing actually working on a project on sustainable product development. And the idea was, so like I thought at that time, I will kind of try to maybe tell the company how they can develop their product in a sustainable way. But after spending some time with the companies I was working with, I realized, hey, you are doing this already. Kind of, it was more about helping them to realize, okay, that you are already doing this. Because at that time, when we thought about responsibility, we thought the company was thinking about the environment. It was only about the environment. But there are many things that are correlated to culture, to social issues, economic issues that actually they are actually also part of responsible tourism, and you don't tell about that.
Yeah, this is also one thing. Like many companies or many people thinks that like they are actually doing a really good thing, like what in kind of service they are providing, on how they are operating. But then again, like it's not whether it's not visible, or like they are not really telling it separately, but they are actually doing it. But how it is in Lapland, like I believe like there are many companies they are actually doing, but maybe like they are not doing it in a way, like let's say in a planned way or something. But how many companies you see, like what kind of picture is there, like José-Carlos, you are visiting many different companies, or and you are involved in this, so do you see like many companies are actually doing but they are not telling, or is it that like not really doing but there are like some plans they have? What is the situation?
So it's difficult to give some numbers on that, but one general overview is, so like I think the situation is changing very fast, but it has the thing has been that a lot of information has not been disclosed and not provided. I think that nowadays some companies are taking a step into that direction to tell more about things that are happening in their companies. And for example, social media is one channel of doing that. It's not only about putting things in the web page, but also through pictures, through videos, also tell about what is the content where you're working and what's happening in the company. And there are a lot of initiatives. So like, as I said, I have been working in different development projects and research projects that have been dealing with responsible product development and animal welfare in tourism. So, and this has been supported by companies in Lapland. So without the support of companies in Lapland, who wouldn't be have the chance to do that kind of work. In that way, there is an interest in the companies also to take a look at these kind of responsibility issues and sustainability issues in the industry. Also, there we see that there's an interest, and companies want to improve the practices, to learn more about it and how to do things. And also, we have seen during the last years also new guidelines, code of conduct, for example, about Sami culture. These also kind of steps in the right direction. So we see new guidelines, new codes of conduct that can be used in industry. So I see kind of a good developments in that.
Yeah, there are actually like a kind of I will go back to Saana, but before that, what I want to say is that like in this kind of situation here, for example, now this tourism sector, or like globally, and also in Finland, that different kind of these restrictions and traveling limitations and all other things. So some people are actually saying that now people or travelers need to act more responsible way. So what is they here to do, and then what is our part in Lapland, or like in general in tourism? Yeah, Saana, please.
I was actually about to comment the previous topic a little bit, considering Finnish companies, whether they are doing things and not informing about it. I think that might be a sort of nature of Finnish people and therefore Finnish companies as well, that there might be very good systems in place, but we are a bit modest nation, so we don't brag too much. So I would like to encourage companies that are doing things well regarding responsible tourism to inform, to be brave and inform about it, write about it clearly on your website, but to avoid obviously so-called greenwashing. So if you are telling about those things you do, then you should also do what you say and say what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a little bit on the previous topic.
Yeah, like if you can tell us something more, like why responsible tourism is important now. Why, like, people are telling that, like, if you are traveling now and then if you will travel in the future, so you need to act more responsible way. Like, of course, like there are like different kind of issues of health situation and this epidemic and many other things. But is it that like now it's people are talking much more about that?
I think and hope that yes. Obviously now safety is on top of everybody's mind. So they are now, Finnish government just told today that we are slowly starting to be allowed to travel without quarantines to some certain countries. And we were already earlier encouraged to travel within Finland. But people are still probably a little bit scared to leave their homes, thinking about, is it safe to go there and is it safe to go there? So now that's probably at least one question that is everybody wants to know. If I come and stay with your company, is it really safe? How can I keep my safety distance and protect myself from the coronavirus? But while we are starting to pay attention to issues like this, I think we are learning to gain awareness. We are gaining awareness about other topics as well, because they sort of go hand in hand, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that you mean that sustainable tourism, that like what goes hand in hand, like the tourism and also like safety and other things?
Yeah, and now I sort of lost my thought.
Yeah. Well, like some people are actually saying that like is in the upcoming days or in future, like it's not that like responsible tourism or sustainable tourism, it's just a small part of the tourism, but it will be rather like a integral part of the system of the sector, so that we have to maintain it, or we have to really consider it. Otherwise, like businesses are not going to like the situation is not going to improve, or businesses are not going to benefit it from that, because like now it seems like sustainable tourism or responsible tourism might be something that you could actually some kind of choice or something, but some experts are saying that in the coming days or in the future it would be something that you have to do it, otherwise you cannot survive, or it will be hard to survive.
One reason for that could be that destinations around the world are starting to kind of select their tourists. So what coronavirus caused, they were the biggest problem, at least one of the biggest issues regarding tourism before coronavirus was over-tourism. And we have very famous examples like Barcelona, Amsterdam, Venice, that have been suffering from over-tourism for years. And now with all the travel restrictions, the locals got their cities back. So when the streets were finally empty of tourists, the locals sort of got their cities back, and they don't want to return. They don't want to go back to the time where the streets were crowded by poorly behaving tourists. And So it's been already all over the news how these most popular travel destinations are making their sort of new rules, new restrictions, finding out new ways to get better tourists. And so in the future, if we want to travel, we have to learn to respect, we have to be the kind of tourists that we are wanted.
Yeah, is it that like it comes like for the companies, like they need to, they have the like kind of a major responsibility there, or how it is like if like for example I go to some place and then like, I don't really follow those or I don't really care different kind of issues, what is important for sustainable tourism or responsible tourism. So who like how it could be like ensured? Who is who can do that or who is like in charge of that?
I think we have to think when it comes to responsible tourism, the ones who are always in the center, they are the local people, the local residents. So if tourism brings only negative impact, like tourists who are not behaving well or who are throwing trash everywhere, who are bringing nothing but problems, the locals will turn against them, and obviously that will be causing problems between in the destination. Companies, local companies, will be sort of in troubles as well if the local people don't want tourists there. So in order, we should always, the companies as well as tourists, we always need to consider the local people, that we are guests there in their homes, and we should respect that, and we should always behave like we would want tourists to behave if they were coming to our neighborhood.
Yeah, like Jose Carlos can continue here. Like, what are the like? Is the companies are responsible for that? Like to tell people or tourists like what, how they can be a part of sustainable or responsible tourism, or how who actually does that?
Yeah, as Sana said, yeah, it's in the interest of the companies to take good care of what is going on in the destination. So because if they are actually doing things in a way that they are irritating the locals or damaging the natural environment or local environment, then at the end they are going to lose their customers or have kind of a negative feedback. So it is kind of a responsibility and kind of the competitive advantage of the companies kind of go hand in hand. So in that way, it's kind of the responsibility of the companies to take good care of this, that they are actually working in a responsible way. Yeah. But on the other hand, so also it's about also the local governments, and so like trying to plan tourism in a way that is responsible. We can not only give kind of the responsibility and to the company saying that they have to find the solutions, but also sometimes the government has to put also some restrictions or limitations or negotiate how tourism can be exercised in a responsible way in a particular place or a destination. So
yeah, like sometimes like it's also like kind of not clear, like when we are saying responsible tourism and people need to do like work for that, and then companies need to be aware, and then they have to do some kind of actions for that, and they have to tell people. But what are those responsible tourism things? Like sometimes it's kind of just a word, like people don't really understand how we can tell people a bit more easily.
That's a very good
question for you, both of you.
Yeah, I think local companies and the tour operators, they have like an important role to inform tourists. It's a lot easier for tourists to avoid making current problems worse if they know what they are in the first place. So, for instance, in Lapland, it was just, I believe, just a few days or a few weeks ago, there was published like this responsible tourism guideline. So clear instructions for tourists, how to avoid problems, how to travel in more responsible manner, what are the things you should do, what are the things you shouldn't do. And that's, for example, for local companies, if they are not doing anything else, at least they have this guideline they can print out and put it somewhere very visible for tourists. So tourists can learn that, okay, this is what I should do, this is what I shouldn't do, and they already are a little bit better tourists.
Yeah, and these are good examples that are done at the destination level or regional level. So, for example, also the case in Iceland when they have all this information for the tourists about how to travel around the island and what kind of things are allowed and what kind of things are not. It's actually help to improve the situation. And this is the thing that we need something that is done not only by the company, but also by the destination management organizations or maybe the local governments or tourism organizations. Because for the companies, it's also it's an important issue because it could be that maybe most of the companies are working in a responsible way and they have their things actually doing good things in practice. But if there are two companies that are not doing in the same way, not working the same way, they will have an negative impact on what the other companies are doing. So in that way, it's not beneficial also for the companies if there are a couple of companies that are not actually doing responsible tourism at the end. For that purpose, we need some organization that actually take good care that people are actually doing things in a certain way.
Yeah, like you were saying about this, like how do you actually inform people, and then how it could be done, and like it's not. And then you were saying, both of you were saying that like it's actually not enough to put just in the website, and something like that. But how do these work, or how it can be done in better way? Like there was like once you said that like it could be, for example, having those kind of information, or like informing people, or like having in the discussion also in for example in social media, how that can be a good example, or is it like a good thing what companies or businesses and other people can do? Is it that in social media, if they want to have those kind of issues there, also debate, or like telling about their services, is it the most influential thing at the moment, or what do you think?
Well, social media is obviously a very important source of information and good way to reach a lot of people, and it should be, responsible tourism should be a topic on social media more often than it is at the moment. But if you think about good ways of informing travelers so that it actually has a very good impact on travelers, is, as per to my experiences, when I've been traveling in Lapland, for instance, and I've been taking part in guided tours like hiking trips or kayaking trips or river rafting. The local guides, when you really go with a local company, the guides, the people in the company, they should tell to the tourists as much about responsible tourism. In Lapland, no matter what you do, you're always in the middle of beautiful nature. So it's a good chance to tell about the topics. And when you really make an impact to these tourists who is there with you, they hopefully then spread the word forward. And this kind of word of mouth kind of reaction is still the best way to make an impact, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Like I think like one of the these initiative of responsible tourism is that like involving local people, and then having a guide, and then local expert when you are having some kind of doing some activities and or having something there as when you are visiting there. So it's more important that like you connect with local people, because from the locals you can actually get like what there need to be done, and then what are the good things to follow, and then how you can actually have the best experience. So in many cases that can be beneficial for the visitors or the tourists. But is it that like people just need to be aware about that, but or companies just need to tell them beforehand?
No, I think that yes, of course, it would be nice to know beforehand, and I think people are also looking for this information beforehand. And as was already said, so like social media I agree that it's, I think right now is maybe the best way for providing information about what is going in the company. It's maybe the cheapest way and the most effective way that will reach most people. But it also needs that it's done in a systematic way, and that someone is responsible for also updating and answering questions, because nowadays so people are actually, they are in Instagram or Facebook or any of these social media channels, so maybe people will ask questions, they will like to have responses. It's something that it has to be done in a systematic way. It's not that you will respond in maybe 1 week or 2 weeks to the question of one of the customers, because they are interested in knowing more about the things before they come to the destination. And that is something we have seen in the case of animal welfare in tourism. So like that nowadays more companies are talking more about what they do actually in the kennels or with the reindeer. They provide more information about that, and that is something that can also create more kind of transparency in the activities, that people actually know what happens behind the stage. For example, it's not only about only putting picture. For example, we talk about animals in a safari, but also about where they live, when they are feeding, where, for example, the vet is coming and taking care of them. All these things, actually, you can able to have access to that and see how the companies are doing these things in the premises. Then it's actually increased transparency in we think about responsibility issues, and also at the same time it promotes trust between customers and companies. You can think, okay, wow, this is the way they're doing this. I like this, and I will visit them then in the future.
Yeah, so like you were saying that like the providing information or being active in those responsible tourism issues in social media channels. So like how we can reach more people, and then at the same time people can also get the information what they need, and it can be like possible from there easily from social media.
Yeah, I think it would be a good way. Like we were talking earlier, how important it is nowadays to have these things mentioned on the website, but because then there are still, I believe, my majority of travelers who don't know to seek for that information because they are not aware of it. Yeah. So besides that companies would tell about these things on their website, they would also post about it on social media when they can again reach, the message can reach more people, and again raise more awareness. And
yeah. So how is that like, do you think that at the moment companies or the authorities are like providing enough information about responsible tourism in social media channels?
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Okay, very shortly. Yes, I think so. So not all of them, but more and more companies are doing that. But they could still improve it. I know that for some companies, we talk about the tourism sector. There are many kind of micro companies, companies that are operated by 2 or 3 persons or one person, and then it's challenging to have this kind of updating social media and then taking care of the company. Is very difficult. But But yeah, if you are in social media and you want to tell about that and make your business more transparent and tell about what you're doing, so you need to have someone that has time for doing that, because otherwise maybe it's not a good idea to be there. So it has to be someone who can take care of that and take the responsibility for these issues and to communicate to the customers and establish a dialogue in online. But more and more companies are doing that.
That's actually a very good point, that besides telling about these things on your website, because then there are also the very conscious travelers who know to read websites with a little bit of criticism, which is of course a good thing, not to just automatically buy everything that is told to you. But social media is perfect way to show that those things that you say on your website are actually true. So you can show the customer that this is how we really do it. We don't only say it on our website, but we actually also do it.
And as Saana said, it's about walking the talk. So like sticking to your values. So like if you have certain values in your company that you are following, and you believe in that is a good way of doing things, responsible way of doing things. So at least you stand behind your values and you actually, so reasons why you are doing, you can explain that why you are doing things in that particular way. Maybe because always some customer may disagree on that, and that maybe this is not the right way, but if you are actually, you are true to your values, then you can stand behind them and tell about why. Yeah. This is very important. So to walk the talk, what you'd say, that is the way you should act and do things.
Yeah, like telling something and then at the same time showing it, so that like people can see it, like how things are done, and then they can have some kind of insight from there, like what they can actually expect if they're going to come here or visit their place, or like buying some kind of service, so people know it beforehand. And of course, like this website thing, like when you are putting something in the website, it's not that necessary. People are actually following you in every tab, and then all those different kind of episodes, and then getting from there the information. But nowadays, like as José-Carlos said, that like people actually they can get quite fast the information from social media, so they might not really want or not have time to actually look at there. So there need to be kind of strategy for even for the small companies, because if you want to have those clients or increase their businesses and benefits and value of businesses, so it's kind of important to tell people at the same time.
Yeah, and it is important. So like in the sense, if we go some years back in time, so like there was, because sustainability and responsibility is not a new thing, has been among us for many years. And usually what companies did in the past was that, okay, they said in the web page, okay, we are committed to sustainable development. We are committed to sustainability. We believe in sustainable development. Okay, but what does it mean? So, and that is the thing that nowadays we came to the stage or to the point that people want to know, or you have to be clear about what do you mean by that? What do you mean by being responsible? What are you doing? How are you doing these things? So you have to open it up. It's not enough that you say we are committed to sustainable development. You have to tell more about that. This is very important in the contemporary society.
Yeah, that's true, because like many people are having this different kind of own strategy, for example, just for social media channels, so that like they can tell about themselves and share the information, like have like talking about services and different kind of issues. So social media is, I think, a great tool even for the small businesses, and small businesses can actually get benefited from that, so that they don't necessarily need many people for this, but somehow they need to take care of it. Maybe that's the issue. What do you, Saana, think?
Yeah, I definitely agree what José-Carlos said, and when you are really I know it can be for small businesses, it can be very hard work to maintain social media, but then you also remember that when the customers get the really good experience that they're expecting, and they are then happy to do part of the social media work for you. So if they're very positively surprised, they're very happy with their visit or whatever kind of company it is, and they are happy with the work the company is doing regarding responsible tourism, they share it with their followers as well. So the good word can spread very fast thanks to social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that actually, if we think about social media, is what I usually my advice is not if you don't have resources for that, at least maybe you can choose maybe one particular one. You don't need to have 3 or 4 different channels.
Yeah.
One, Facebook or Instagram, which works better for you, and try to work on that particular channel. And update it and answer questions and be in touch with your customer, because this, as Saana said, is about the experience that they are having on site, but also it's a way people are actually looking for this information before they come to their destination. But also people then after they have been here, they will be in touch with the company. I have many examples from companies I have been following that actually a previous customer, they're still in touch through social media, and they like the pictures and say, oh, I was meeting this housekeeper over there, and wow, he's now doing very well right now. And so in that way, they keep in touch, and of course, they will recommend, will suggest this to their friends. Hey, I was there in Lapland in this company. You can here, you have the Instagram account, check it out, and so on. So in that way, we're talking not only about kind of providing information before a customer come over here, but also while they are here and after they have left. And still we are in touch with them, and they are having the tourist experience, not only here in Lapland, but also they are home when they are actually looking at the pictures or the videos and so on.
Yeah, they can be sharing the pictures for a long time after the trip. So
yeah, I think like it's a good example, like what José-Carlos just said, that like it's like you need to choose at least one place where you can actually tell people and share your stories and tell about your initiatives and insights about your company and services. So it doesn't need to be like many 5 or 10 different social media channels to take care all the time, because in Lapland, like we know that like most of the companies or many companies are actually small, and then it's like not many people are like have like running the company. There are some big companies, but otherwise like there are all small companies where maybe one person or few person are running the company. So in that case, like they can get benefited in these aspect if they can just concentrate on certain social media platform and then share about their business, share about their like own thought, and then like business policies and commitments about responsible tourism, sustainable tourism. So it can actually give them long-term benefit, not for just the person who is visiting now, but for the person who will come after 1 year or later. So in that sense, I think it's kind of important. Yeah, Saana was saying something.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's a good thing to remember about the social media, that even if it's a good platform for getting the positive word going fast forward, that could happen also in case the customers have something negative to say, which we were talking about earlier, that when companies are telling about responsible tourism, the acts they take on their website, that they should say only things that they actually do. And say what you do what you say, because if customers realize when they come and they come as a customer and then they realized that, okay, this company was saying that they do like this, but then it's exactly the opposite, that will spread as well on social media.
Yeah, and this is the reason why so like then there's a need that someone is actually taking a look at the social media channels, updating, monitoring, and able to answer to questions, because it doesn't look good if, for example, someone has a negative feedback and it takes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to answer it back. So I think that especially negative feedback is something companies in social media need to deal with fast to give an answer and to provide a response, because otherwise it looks like, okay, something is maybe it's there, that's why people are not answering. So it's very, very, very important to be in constant dialogue with the comments that are there, especially if there are questions or feedback.
Yeah, this timely answering is kind of important, because like when you are putting some kind of thing in social media, then like at the same time many people are actually interacting, and if you don't respond there, like if it's a negative feedback, then actually it's affecting your business in a big way, because like people are taking decisions quite fast. Even like if someone is going to buy your products tomorrow, then that person might not buy it, or it might affect on that this buying decision. So in that case, like if like they are active in social media, maybe they have to active also like responding to those things as well. So it does have this. I would say like it does have many positive things, but of course there is this negative thing. If you are not doing what you are telling, then it's a risk on your own. It's like all the time there. But like I think like in Lapland, like many companies are actually what they're, even though they're not telling, but they're doing. And then of course who are telling, they're actually doing it. And we have also we see a different kind of post, a debate or different feedbacks also in our Facebook group Visit Lapland, and also in Instagram we get like many messages every day, or let's say like quite many all the time, so we don't have time to respond. But it does say that people actually want to know much more, and then they are aware about it, like what you are doing and then what you are showing. So it's not that like they don't really care about those, like the sustainable issues or responsibility issues, but people are take care. That's why they ask all the time. But like businesses need to respond there if they're active there, and then I think it's a big thing to do in part of responsible tourism and sustainability in Lapland or in Finland in general. What do you say, José-Carlos, about this current situation? Is it affecting somehow these, or is it like giving a more space to talk about these responsible initiatives in the tourism sector?
Well, I think that is more important than ever. So we think about responsible tourism, and I know at the moment, as was said before, so we were at the point of over tourism, and there was a lot of talks about many people traveling and everywhere, flights, and now we went to the opposite. And this is something that now at the moment we see around destinations around the world, but also in the academic community, so that people also see this as a possibility, or they are telling or talking about the idea of a possibility to rethink or reflect on the future of tourism, how to do things in a different way. For example, the case of New Zealand, about kind of trying to put new policies about how tourism should be developed, or for example, in the case of Venice and also Barcelona, that talks about that, because now that they have realized, okay, now now that the tourists are gone, now they got the city kind of back, and so now how to do it then in a way that maybe they don't get this over tourism again in the destinations. But it is something that we need to reflect on, that how to do things in a different way. But I think that now the most important thing for the companies and also for people working in the tourism industry is, I think it's about economic responsibility, because we have a lot of people that have been laid off and companies that are not doing well. So we need to this kind of economic part has become very important right now. So at this the time of the Corona crisis, but also it had make also companies or governments aware of how volatile is tourism as an industry, because we depend a lot on international traveling. So people coming from somewhere else, traveling long distances to our places and spending a couple of days or weeks in our destinations. So, and this is something that we need to think also about the future, because maybe this is not the last pandemic we will have. We may have similar situation maybe in the future. So like to think about maybe how to to make the tourism, the market we have for our company destination more diverse, maybe not only international, but maybe now is maybe the point where we start thinking about local tourism, for example, traveling not only in your own country, but maybe neighboring countries here in Europe. And so maybe you don't need to go too far away. This could be a possibility in that way to diversify more the market, that you are not only relying on international travel, but you also have international travel, you have national travelers, local travelers, so that even people living in the same destination that could actually be your customers. In that way you are, because this is the major problem right now, at the moment, is so the travelers from abroad are not able to come, and we don't know how long it's gonna last. This is one way of rethinking it, and also other ways, for example, kind of now there are talks about virtual tourism also, about, for example, that is something that has been discussed in the past, but nowadays maybe there's an opportunity to that. Maybe not all people need to travel. Sometimes people could actually travel virtually, maybe have one holiday in a year, and maybe 3 holidays, virtual holidays during the year. Because people nowadays are traveling a lot, or have been traveling a lot, for 2 days, 3 days holidays. It happens in Europe. It's very common that you go from Helsinki to Munich for 2 days, or to Lapland for a couple of days. I would say in the future, let's try to encourage people that maybe when they're traveling, they spend more time in the place. If they're coming to Lapland, don't come for 2 days. Spend maybe 7 days, 1 week here in Lapland. And this kind of a slow traveling maybe is becoming maybe an alternative. So like instead of traveling around the world, so during a year, maybe 7 travels, have 1 travel and enjoy more the place where you're going and choosing them. And these kind of reflections are taking place right now in the academia, but also in the industry. And I hope that it's gonna be something good coming out of these discussions and reflections.
Yeah, that's true. Like there was I can see many people are actually doing some kind of trip that flying from London in the morning and then going back at night or next morning or something like that. So what you said, that it's kind of important to have these discovering or exploring a place. So it's not that important, and you come in the morning and then leave in the afternoon. If you have planned to see that place and experience that place, and to actually explore what you want to share or what you can experience there in that certain destination. So it's important. But that economics purpose, what you said, economically, is I think important. And then it's a kind of for a balance, you need many more people to travel in the surrounding areas, let's say in the country or neighboring countries and other places, so that it doesn't give any kind of dependency in the tourism sector for a certain group of people. If you are thinking let's say if you think about the number of Chinese tourists in Lapland, or the tourists from different countries of Europe, so it's it's changing all the time. And then at some point we had a big group of Russian tourists also in Lapland. So things are changing all the time. It's not at the same time it's staying same group. In that sense, it's important to have this balance. For example, local tourism, being going for traveling to local places, local businesses, and then having sharing with them, and it also contributes economically for those local businesses as well, which is also a good example for responsible tourism.
Yeah, I wanted to say just what José-Carlos just said that I completely agree. And Finland can actually be quite tempting destination for, as international tourism is now slowly restarting, and we are quite famous for, we have lots of nature, we have lots of space, we have people who want to keep their social distance naturally. And so tourism can be one way up from the economical crisis that has happened before, for example, in Iceland. But I also believe, like José-Carlos said there, this is probably not the only time when traveling just simply isn't possible. So companies really should think how they can develop their business in such way that when the borders, if the borders are closed, that they could still survive. And again, we talked about earlier how the local people should be always like in the center of tourism, because they are the ones who are living with the consequences or the impacts. So I don't think we should separate too much like tourism industry, like tourism services from local services, because in most cases, even if companies are working in tourism and or targeting their services for travelers, but locals can use those services too, whether they are people living exactly in the destination or in the nearby area. So the companies should take more into consideration what they could do for the locals, what services they could provide for the locals. There was one great example, I think it was last month, I read about it in the news. There was this one of the glass igloo villages in Lapland, I believe in Ranua. When international tourists weren't able to arrive, they were renting those igloos for people in a daily basis, like for remote work. And a lot of local people use them as kind of corona isolation escape. So this is a perfect example. Even if they are normally targeted for international tourists, then they were very beneficial to locals as well when they really needed them. So these kind of innovative ideas for.
Yeah, it's also like kind of maybe more important nowadays, like when situations are not that same or like what do you say, normal. So these different kind of innovative ideas are much more important.
What you mentioned, so like in the past, for example, the Russian market, and when it was very important for Lapland, there were many Russians were coming here, and there were a lot of companies that were actually focusing on the Russian market. And at some point, when these political kind of developments in Russia and so on, and economic developments then affected the marketing, and Russians there were not coming, then it was really very, very difficult for the companies that were very focusing only on the Russian market. And it taught a lot to the Lapland companies in the sense that don't put all your eggs in the same basket, so try to diversify things. Don't focus only one market. And now it's nature that actually it's not only political developments or economic development, but it's nature that is actually having an impact on tourism as an industry, and not only here in Finland, but at a global level. And again, so it's about diversifying our portfolio in the company so that we were to focus as many destinations, focusing on international travel, international market is the main market. And I think that in the future, it's going to be still the main market. But if we have other markets at the same time, it helps us to go better through these situations. So if, for example, we will have a local market or a kind of a virtual market, or maybe other kind of market that could also use in the company. It's kind of difficult to think right now about this, but it's something we need to reflect on, about how to do that, maybe how to make our portfolio more diverse and not to rely too much on the international market.
Yeah, that's why, because where the idea came, like what I have seen in Rovaniemi, for example, like maybe in other destinations in Lapland, not much, but in Rovaniemi, for example, let's say like dependency. Some companies I have seen like they are 100% dependent on certain countries. That's for Chinese tourists, what they are kind of offering, the services, and what kind of business they have. It does have just only one thing. So like when like for different reasons, like if these restrictions or corona or like other political reason, if that destination like is suffering or like in somehow comes different kind of issues, so that company is in big risk actually. So it's not also like any way responsible or sustainable business initiative.
And that is something that is discussed also at in the industrial level. If we think about manufacturing companies with the supply chain, I have been attending some kind of webinars about these topics, about where they are talking about how the supply chain has been disrupted because of the coronavirus crisis.
Yeah.
But if we talk about services, especially tourism, also there is a big disruption there. But they were also saying that some companies, for example, in the US, Canada now, because of this crisis, they are thinking about relocating again, kind of having the suppliers closer to the place, so in the same country, because in that way, because they are too dependent on the suppliers somewhere else, for example, in China or in India or in other countries. And now this shows that if you have all the suppliers there, and then you will have a problem if this happens, because we were used to this kind of global economy and global movement, and now we don't have it. So we have borders are again here, and I don't know how long they will stay. It has kind of changed the business environment, and as companies, manufacturing companies, are thinking about relocating their supply chains or making them more local. I think that is also the same. Maybe that in tourism we need to think about how to do that. Maybe it can be done in a certain way. I think it is possible. I don't think that it's gonna be the bigger market, but still maybe some help from there.
Yeah, that's true. What does Saana think about that? About these like businesses and prospects and economic issues?
It was a very good reference, but José-Carlos was saying that never put all your eggs in one basket. And now we also have to remember in this current situation, and this summer will most likely be the year of local travel. So even if borders are now starting to open, many in Finland, many people will choose traveling within Finland anyway, even if they could possibly go abroad. So even if there are companies who normally target international clients, now it's a good time to remember that don't forget Finns. That I think feeling welcome is one part of responsible tourism as well. That even if your focus group is somewhere else, then still you should wish anyone welcome, like also Finnish travelers. And this is definitely the year to practice that.
Yeah, of course. Like I agree that like we need to like the local businesses and local people like who are going to have a big responsibility on that, like to ensure that responsible tourism and sustainable development in the tourism sector. So like of course like if it we can do those kind of initiatives much more and then take care of those, then it will be probably more benefited in the coming days. It's not for just for now, but in the coming days as well. Well, José-Carlos, is if you want to say something, if you have some kind of suggestion or something, what you could tell us.
No, I was thinking. So yeah, I agree with Saana with this about this the year of I think local traveling, and we can see it also in Central Europe, Southern Europe, when they were talking about these tourist bubbles and trying to, for example, Austria and Germany and Switzerland, people travel around there, all these places, and there is something. Yeah, it would be great if we could do also the same here in the north, but still the borders are closed. So the situation in Sweden is still not very clear. So, but it could have been a good way of doing that. But I would say so. So there are many people living in southern Finland and they have never been to Lapland. And why not this year could be a time? Yeah, come to Lapland, come to the north, or go to other places in Finland, visit other places. So take a kind of a Finnish holiday. And discover new places because I know that many people they go from, if we think about from Helsinki to somewhere in Europe and nowhere in Finland, and there is no opportunity for doing that, and it will be very welcome also for the companies here in Finland that during this situation that actually also need to be supported in that way. You are thinking about having a break, do it in Finland. If you live here in Finland, and if you are somewhere else and you would like to come to Finland, to Lapland, you're very welcome to come if the possibility is there. But I would say that stay longer. So don't come only for 2 days, or come here for 1 week or more if possible, and enjoy nature, enjoy the environment. Also, Lapland is a very beautiful place in the summer. So most people travel in the winter, but summer is also a very special place. And do that.
I think like it's a good time. For example, of course, like in the economic concern, it's like companies are suffering, and then it's like kind of same in almost in every countries, and also in Finland and Lapland. But what I think, like in my opinion, it's like companies can actually make a good strategy and plan, like when they have time now, because that not many people are going to use those services, or not many people are going to come now. So they have actually quite a good time to prepare for the next. So when like they can have better services, better preparation, and like they can also provide those in a more sustainable way. I think it's a good, for example, big opportunity for local companies in Lapland and in different places. What do you, Saana, say about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think smart companies have taken this time, this quiet time, as a possibility to develop their functions so that if the same happens again, they wouldn't be in troubles. And
that's kind of a plan what they can make. I think is kind of important, and companies have time to do that. So it's like for their these business benefits, it would be a good time to try it now, like when they have time, and then prepare themselves. Like please.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, about how to prepare for the future, but also I think that this time is also the time when companies working here in Lapland, for example, they had now the time came so like I stop, so like because you are always going, and you don't look around what is going on, and now has come up. I would say this really situation is really difficult, but at the same time we can also see there is a possibility for rethinking the way we do things, and maybe coming up with new services, new products, taking a look at tourism from a different point of view. Also, and that is something I think many companies are doing.
I think like getting recharging, and then like trying to the new innovative ways to produce services, or to provide services for the big amounts of tourists. So probably like we will see many changes in the tourism sector, because like many companies of course they already started to think like how it can be done in a more sustainable way, and then like having less negative issues like economic losses or something, so that if they can diversify, for example, their products or audiences, or the like how they want to like do their marketing to get these possible markets. So it's a big time for now, like to think about that. We are actually 1.5 hour almost, and then we're talking about responsible tourism, and I think like it's a good issue, or it's a good topic. Like for me personally, it's a good thing to discuss all the time, like how responsible tourism actions can be done like in many different ways, and why it's important. It's just now, for example, what I think, like if we are posting a picture just in Instagram or in Facebook, it can carry some kind of message for responsible tourism. So it's not just publishing a picture, but it also can be a good example for some kind of message, which can actually inspire people or give information about this sustainability and tourism, what we need more, what is much more important now. And as José-Carlos said, it's more important than ever. So we have to, of course, work on it. These live who are watching this till now, like this live, you can see it in our Facebook page of Visit Lapland, and then also in our YouTube channel. You can find it in our link, and then there are also our other live events what we have had before. You can watch those as well from our website. And then we are doing these live events regularly in different issues and different topics. Of course, these responsible tourism is the discussion will probably not end here, because there are many more things to talk and then many more things to share. And then I think it's we have to have a longer time for that, and we can discuss about that. Hopefully we'll have again another discussion about responsible tourism in the near future during summertime. José-Carlos, do you want to say something as in the end, as a suggestion or opinion?
No, just thank you for having me here and having this kind of very interesting discussion. And yeah, it's really very important that these discussions are taking place right now. And yeah, that's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. And thanks to Saana as well. Do you, Saana, want to say something for the audience who are watching this?
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. And for final words, I guess I should say that go and visit Lapland this summer. That Lapland isn't just a winter destination, but summer can be very stunning. The midnight sun and at the end of the summer, the autumn colors are just stunning.
Yeah. Like José-Carlos, you were saying this Nightless Night already started in Rovaniemi, and you are living in Rovaniemi. Can you share us something like how it looks like now? Or like it looks like so sunny and beautiful day. Like, what is the temperature there at the moment?
We can't hear you.
Yeah, the sound probably missing.
Sorry. It's like 20 degrees. So right now it's 18 degrees. Yeah, 18 degrees. It was sunny day. Really nice. Yeah, you have it's midnight and you have it's bright outside. It is a fantastic experience, I think. As the Northern Lights, I think the midnight song is a fantastic, authentic experience here in Lapland.
Yeah, I think it's a magic. Like you don't have night, you don't have day. So in winter you don't have actually any you can see the daylight, or like it's limited in some part in Utsjoki and other parts. Like there is no light then. Of course, like Northern Lights is a different thing, but sunlight, what I mean. But then again, in summer, you can see it's a totally different way, which is really unique. And then, of course, I would say, the same as Saana, that you should come to visit Lapland in summertime to experience this Nightless Night. And midnight sun is amazing, and it's not just enough to say it in mouth, so you have to experience it on your own. So thank you very much. Thank you, Saana, and thank you, José-Carlos. It was nice to have you here, and then those who are watching, and thank you, everyone. And then we will end our live here, and then please visit our website and then visit our social media channels to get updates. And this live you can see from our website. Go there in our lapland.fi live, and then you can see there all our live events. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.